Good morning, and welcome to another educational and inspiring Alliance of Women in Workers' Compensation webinar. The Alliance of Women in Workers' Compensation's mission is to affect positive change in the workers' compensation industry through networking, support, mentoring, and collaboration. In the pursuit of this mission, the Alliance unites the workers' compensation industry to work together towards these common goals. Our purpose through the Alliance, the organization provides opportunities for women to engage with accomplished industry professionals and build lasting relationships, enrich their knowledge base with tactical insights from speakers and panelists like today, explore opportunities and challenges facing women leaders today, encounter senior executives' perspectives on leadership, examine leadership strategies and how to effectively apply those strategies, empower ourselves to achieve success and groundbreaking results. Now I would like to pause and acknowledge the 2021 sponsors on your screen. We are extremely grateful to each company for their continued support. We are happy to welcome Latisha B. Russell, a leader in the HR industry and author. Latisha is a visionary, supported by over 20 years of expertise, leading talent management, capability, building, organizational change, performance management, and improvement initiatives. She specializes in assisting qualified candidates reach their goals in successful organizations. Her fortitude, agility, and emphasis on employee engagement, inclusion, and continuous learning inspire positive cultural change. Latisha earned her master's degree in HR and organizational management, obtained multiple HR certifications with significant training and leadership distinctions. As a former adjunct professor and education enthusiast, Latisha lends her spare time as a motivational speaker, author, and impassioned advocate for a central focus on breaking the silence and stigma around childhood trauma and abuse. We are happy to welcome Latisha B. Russell. Take it away, lady.
Thank you, Tracey. I appreciate you. Bear with me as I share my screen. Let me get just to start, a thumbs up, just to make sure everyone can hear me. And Tracey, I'm not seeing the chat box, so let me know that I got some thumbs up. That way we know that we can we have good audio for everyone. And then while we're doing that, I apologize because my lighting will not allow me to be great. And so I won't play with it. I'm just going to let it be. The lighting will probably go in and out because, as you can see, the window is behind me. So just forgive me because I do not have great lighting today.
Well, Latisha, you are great. And let me piggyback off what you said. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be managing the chat box. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask those questions in the chat box, because we would love to have, and Latisha would love to be able to answer those in real time. Thanks again, Latisha.
Awesome, thank you. So we got thumbs up, everyone can hear?
Yes, I see thumbs up. I see we got you, yes.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so as Tracey said, we want to make this as interactive as possible, right? We want you all to chime in, ask questions. I'm not opposed to you all chiming in the moment, because we all know sometimes it's like, I got a question, but then you forget the question by the time the presentation is over. So please feel free to chime in if you hear something. We're going to go over crucial conversations. You know, as we think about the climate that we're in today and just overall working, we have those moments where we have to have those difficult conversations, right? And so you'll hear me go back and forth between the crucial and the difficult conversations, but we have to have those. And many times we wonder, how do we start, right? What do we even say when it comes that point in time where we're having to sit down with an associate and really understand how we drive or navigate those conversations with those associates? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I hope, why is let me make sure. Awesome. All right. So what are crucial conversations? They're discussions where stakes are high. Opinions do vary, right? You're going to have differing opinions between the associate that's sitting in front of you and then the leader that's driving that conversation. Emotions run high. Normally, when you have someone that's sitting in front of you, even though you're a leader, we still get nervous to have those conversations. It could be, this is the first time I'm having it. It could be the associate. I don't know how that associate is going to respond to this type of conversation. And so we're going to talk about that today. So these could be that day-to-day occurrence that affects those lives. And in many cases, these are just pivotal conversations that result in some significant conversations that you will have to have just throughout the day, throughout your career, with those associates. So as I spoke earlier, its opinions will vary. So you're talking about your boss or with your boss about a possible promotion, right? She or he will think that you are functioning well in X area. You might think, I'm mediocre here, but I'm strong here. That is still a crucial conversation that you're going to have with said leader. Stakes are high. You're in a meeting with 4 coworkers. You're trying to pick a new marketing strategy, possibly. You've got to do something different on your company and your company's annual goals. How do you have that conversation? How do you start it? How do you drive it? Emotions run strong. You have just completed annual salary revisions and given the best possible raises. How many of us know those are some difficult conversations that you have with people when you talk about performance, when you talk about raise, because raises are set by company, it's set by performance, right? And so when you have those conversations, always know that the employee on the other side of that table, they don't know what you know going into this. They don't know that those salary adjustments are already set by how the company performs or just the organization in general. They're just like, why didn't I get a larger increase? So we've got to figure out, how do we now frame that discussion? So why can't we handle these conversations? People generally choose to at least try to handle the conversation or the situations as well as they can. However, most of the times they don't do very well. So many different reasons, right? Again, I spoke earlier, you might be nervous going into the conversation. That is okay. Human beings are really designed to handle stressful situations with fists and feet and more intelligence. And it really goes to how you set that conversation up. You'll hear me say throughout this presentation, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. If you take away nothing else during my hour or 45 minutes with you, take away, it's not what I say, it's how you say it. So it's going to be important in setting up the conversation with the associate. And we're going to give you some examples. I'm going to talk through what does that look like. We're going to role play a little bit just so that, again, you know, and walk away with, okay, when I'm having this type of conversation specifically, maybe I set it up in this manner. It's not about having those knee-jerk reactions, because a lot of times we as leader, we feel like, man, this situation happened. We got to go in and we got to have that conversation now. It goes to, have you heard the saying, you know, sometimes when I know emotions run high, let's not type this email up when I'm upset or angry, right? We got to pull away from the keyboard. Let me give it a moment. Let me think through what I'm going to say. That same situation applies when you're going to have a face-to-face conversation with these associates. So I don't know if most of you are back in the office or if you're having the conversations virtually. Even if it's virtually, you're still face-to-face. So I'll give you if you're virtual, having the conversation with the associate. And actually, let me stop. Tracey, are most of the leaders virtual? And feel free to chime in and let me know, or are you actually face-to-face in the office with folks? Or is there a mixed bag here?
I see, yes, we are virtual.
Okay.
Virtual,
okay.
hybrid, virtual,
awesome.
virtual, Okay,
good.
virtual. In
Awesome.
office, we're both in, so we have a mix. Looks like we have a
Okay.
mix.
Awesome. So good stuff. So let me share this with you. If you are that leader that's virtual, right? Or you have that hybrid, one thing I will say is if you are virtual and you're having a difficult conversation, you can do one of two things. You can either ask, and it depends on the conversation, but you can ask the associate, maybe you schedule time to come in face to face. And if that's not feasible, that's okay, right? We're in this virtual environment today. But what I would recommend is if you, as the leader, do not have meetings or things of that nature where you're face to face on camera and you're just hearing, please ask that associate to turn cameras on, right? And you can even prepare ahead of time to say, I know normally in our cadence of meetings, we don't always have cameras on, but I ask you to do that. Why do I ask you to do that? I'm going to pause. Tell me why I am asking you to turn cameras on if you are having a difficult conversation. And I actually looked so I can see some of the comments.
I was just getting ready to say, so we can learn to have crucial conversations, LOL.
Yep. Yes. Why else? Why would you ask your associate to turn their body language?
Body language.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh,
You
wonderful.
did it. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And so all of
Read
those
expressions. Yeah.
Yes, all of those are spot on. You don't know what an employee is feeling. You don't know if you think they're being honest with you or dishonest. You don't know if they're being, getting defensive with you if you don't see body connection. I just saw nonverbal cues. You don't know all of that, right? If your camera is off. And so I will ask that you ask that associate, I would ask in this moment, given the conversation that we're talking about today, if you don't mind turning your camera on, right? Give them a heads up in the event that you have an associate that needs to go throw something appropriate on so that when they're having a conversation, you're appropriate in the screen. And so the same goes for you as a leader, right? There are things that associates will say to us and we're like, did they just say that? I need for you to monitor your face, right? Monitor the expressions. And so the same goes for both. But I think it is a good thing to remember when you are having that difficult conversation that you do have your cameras on. Or if others, children at home, should they be given a choice to have, good question, Linda. Depending on the conversation, right? And so if you are, let's say you're talking about performance, I would just encourage you, right? You as the leader, yeah, you can definitely give them a choice. Totally up to you as their leader. But if you are doing an investigation, and I don't know how you all handle investigations, right? But if you are doing an investigation and it is leader and associate, absolutely. I would ask that you have the camera on. Because sometimes you can't tell if an associate is being dishonest with you if that camera's off, right? And at the end of it, in the beginning, you go into this meeting giving them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think this associate clocked in and worked without clocking in, or I don't think this associate really left early. I think they had some technical issue, whatever the case was. You go in giving them the full benefit of the doubt, right? They're a great associate. But by the end of it all, you're like, yeah, I didn't believe it. I just, after having that full-blown investigation, I've now shifted what I thought. And I'm going to give you an example. I had an associate, we had a leader who reached out to me and said, Latisha, I have an associate that I believe logged on out of the country. I'm in healthcare, right? I'm the HR business partner for the healthcare industry. It is critical that the associates remain hardwired, logged in, and they're home because we handle healthcare information, right? Very sensitive. And this associate did ask if she could take PTO, but because other associates were out at that time, the leader, discretion of leader at that time, couldn't honor the PTO, right? Let's shift it out a week a little bit. The associate, IT pulled records because the IT will get a ping if associates have logged on out of the country, right? We don't monitor that type of stuff day to day. It's not that we're checking up on associates, but IT will receive a ping for security reasons. Got the ping. Latisha, we have this associate. Please have a conversation with the leader. Great. Said leader, this associate was out of the country. Can you please have a conversation? Because if this associate doesn't respond to us within the next 2 hours, we're going to disable access. The leader says to me, well, Latisha, I think she had some technical issues. I don't think she was out of the country working. And I said, well, looks like this is the IP address. Looks like they're actually out of the country. Well, no, she was calling me. Okay, I need for you to have a conversation. And when I say this leader went to bat for this associate, she put it all on the line. Long story short, I ended up having a conversation with the associate and the leader present, because the associate told the leader point blank, nope, I wasn't out of the country. I was here. Something must have happened. My account was hacked. I mean, went the full gamut. After I had the conversation, what I said to her was, thank you for taking the time to speak with me. I introduced myself. I just want to have a quick conversation because it looks like we have some differing of opinions, right? You've stated that you've had some technical issues. However, IT did pull your history. It looks like at this time you were in Jamaica, right? Can you talk to me a little bit about that? She began to go through the story and I said, so what I will actually caution you of is I'm asking you questions and I'm having the conversation just like this. I'm asking you the questions typically because I already know the answer. And so I would ask that you be very honest with me, because if you're not, we're going to have to make a decision based on the information that we already have, right? I paused and I said, give it a moment. I need for you to think about it before you answer the next question. And she looked at the camera. She said, I was out of the country. Right. So you see how I kind of set that up? I didn't make her feel uncomfortable, but I made her aware that chances are I already have the answers to the questions that I'm asking you. I just want to give you an opportunity. And when she said that, I said, is there a reason that you weren't honest? Yeah, because my leader told me I couldn't take vacation. Okay. So I said, I appreciate your time. What we'll do is follow back up with you. I will make sure that the leader lets you know of what the next steps will be. At that point, we concluded. I actually informed the leader because she was not honest with you, right? She was going to take this to her grave. And because she was not honest, I'm going to recommend that you terminate her employment. Had she been honest up front? Absolutely. Get a warning. Don't do it again. But because she was not honest, I recommended that we terminate her for that reason. So I wanted to just kind of give you the example of how I set the tone, right? That was a really difficult conversation, but I allowed her to speak. I set it up so that she was at least comfortable, and then we moved through the process. So that is just kind of an example of how I would recommend, you have that conversation with her, because had you closed that door immediately, well, I don't think you're being honest with me. I already know the answers to the questions. She would have immediately shut down and not giving you what you needed, right? So just an example. All right. So
that was great.
Thank you. All right. So make it safe. We just talked about this. Build that safety. Establish a mutual purpose. And again, mutual respect. Even if that associate had continued down the path of not being honest with me, I would have still been kind, right? I would have still said, thank you. I appreciate your time. But it's just a matter of building that safe environment. And especially for those that are in that virtual environment, it's more challenging to build that safe environment and rapport when you are virtual, right? Because they're not physically in front of you. And so you want to do that as much as possible. Nothing kills that dialogue more than to go in with that fear. And so setting the tone is how you will get through those difficult conversations.
Okay, you pause for a second. Did you see it says, did the leader get training on how to handle vacation requests going forward?
Thank you. Great question. Thanks, Tracey. I moved the chat box, but great question. So our leaders do go through training, but it's still difficult. When a leader has a semi-smaller team, and I'd say six to 10 people is somewhat small, but let's say you have 6 to 10 people and you normally don't have any issues with your team, it's difficult, right? You want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And let's be honest, in this climate, it's hard to find good talent. It's hard. So leaders are like, let's just keep them. Let's give them a warning. I got faith that they're not going to do it again, right? But reality is, this leader put herself on the line. She was willing to she went to bat, full bat with this for this associate. And so even though she received training, it was still difficult because it was a difficult conversation. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. I'm so sorry. One moment. Again, I have children at home. We have this happen. My little one popped in. So real life situations, right? Real life situations. And so, but great question. Definitely the leaders do receive the training, but it's still difficult, right? So great question. Thank you so much. So preparing for a crucial conversation, get unstuck. Spot the conversations that you are getting stuck in. If you know that I have a challenge with just building that rapport with the associate, right? Ask yourself, all right, how do I do this? Maybe I go in and I ask, how are you doing today, right? Are you nervous, right? It's okay to ask that question. All right, I don't want you to be nervous. I just want to sit down and I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the concerns that you have, or maybe some of the concerns that has been brought to my attention. And what's difficult is we know that we're going in and we're going to have this difficult conversation to smile through it. It's okay to do that. Sometimes it's difficult because you're like, okay, I got to go in and nerves get the best of us, and it is shown all over, but it's okay. Make that associate feel at ease about the conversation that you're going to have with them, right? So critical questions that you want to ask: what conversations am I not holding, and am I not holding well? And this is kind of a check for yourself, because we know that we have difficulty in the types of conversations that we avoid. So the homework for you is to ask yourself, what conversations do I absolutely avoid? Is it around salary? Is it around performance? Is it around that associate when we were in the office who comes in with inappropriate attire? How do I have that conversation? Is it around associates that we might have some challenges around hygiene? Because even though we're all adults, we face those issues, and we've got to figure out, how do we have those types of conversations, right? So I challenge you to do an assessment of yourself and ask, what conversations do I absolutely avoid? Because we all have them. And then practice, right? Just practice. So silence, find our style under stress. What style do you have under stress? What are some things that you absolutely do when you know that you're stressed that you need to stop doing? And then work on those things. Do you find that, I kind of put them under silence. So masking, sugarcoating things, avoiding those conversations, withdrawing, pulling back from those conversations. Practice crucial conversations. I know sometimes we work better under pressure, but bring someone into the fold. Bring a peer of yours in and say, hey, I got this difficult conversation that I got to have. Can we role play? Can we practice a little bit? Be that peer that's going to give them honest feedback. Don't say, you did real good, Tracey. That was knowing. I'm wishing you luck when you go in and have that conversation with the associate. Practice and they need that honest feedback before you go in and have it, right? This is an associate. And so you want to make sure that you practice. Violence. Sometimes people are controlling and micromanaging, and sometimes that comes off in those meetings that you might have. Again, practice. Make sure that you have facts. Make sure that you go in and it's not this conversation of, well, I heard X, right? I just want to let you know that, we've had some concerns that have come out. Some of the things that have, come forth are, and it's okay to bullet out some of those things. One thing I'm going to ask that you caution yourself on, if you have factual things, if an associate has come to you to say, and I'm only saying Tracey because she's right in front of me, so I'm going to use Tracey as the example. Tracey came and gave me some examples of some concerns that have happened, right? Tracey didn't say to you, I don't want my name revealed, right? She didn't say that. Don't assume that it's okay. Go to Tracey and say, hey, Tracey, I do need to have a conversation. Are you comfortable with me letting them know that you are the associate who came forth, right? Chances are Tracey might say, I don't really want you to say my name. That's okay. And if that's the case, don't mention Tracey's name. I would just simply say, I've had some concerns that have come about from some individuals. That person might say, well, who told you that? Who gave you that information? That's not important right now. I just want to make sure that we stay factual, because the goal is for me to share these things with you. And the goal is, as your leader, I want you to be successful, right? And in order for us to help you grow and be successful, I want to give you this feedback, right? We all have those moments where I have to give feedback and it's tough. I have to receive feedback as well. So bring it back to you so that they know that. And in order for you to grow, I want to make sure that I'm providing you with these things. Okay.
That's great. We have a question.
Yes.
Can you also speak to conversations where an individual contributor needs to have a difficult conversation with a leader, and specifically where salary is concerned? Thanks, Valerie.
Absolutely. So before we move to the next slide, let me give you that. Great questions. I love it. Love it. So can you speak to a conversation where an individual contributor needs to have a difficult conversation with a leader? And I'm going to assume that you just mean in general, because salary, and specifically, okay, so you want salary concern. Yes. And I'll give you some real life situations because we're dealing with this now. So in my organization, and please tell me, Valerie, if this did not hit on your question, but in my organization, most recently, we just approved what's called, we did some increases for hourly associates who have been enrolled for a while. And so it was kind of twofold. We looked at the positions that they were in, right? We looked at the salary or hourly wage, whichever or that they were in. And when I said to my leaders, all right, let's now assess these individuals because they've been in said roles for a while. I know there's some concerns. We want to go ahead and address some of the performance and make sure that we're increasing them appropriately, right? The managers came initially and gave us, let's call it 30 names on a spreadsheet. No, I need you all to drill down. Give me the associates that you think are at risk of leaving the organization, and we need their skill and their talent, right? But that's something that the leader in HR should know. You don't go out to the associate and say, well, we only address those individuals who are high risk that are going to leave the business, right? They're just talking points for us. I also said, let's look at performance. You've been enrolled and how long they've been enrolled, right? They looked at performance. They looked at how long they were going to be enrolled. I approved the increases. The challenge was when the other associates got wind that only some received an increase. So with that, I said to the leader, once we approved it, we're not going to do this mass communication. We're going to do a communication to only those that were impacted, right? Those that received the increase. But you got friends. And friend said, hey, friend, I got an increase. The leader came to me on yesterday and said, Latisha, I don't know how to have a conversation with the associate who's asking. So at 1:30 today, I have a conversation set up with this manager and this associate because the manager is afraid of having the conversation. That's okay. What I'm going to say to this hourly associate is, I understand your concerns, right? I'm going to allow her to kind of tell me why she feels she should have received an increase. But I do understand your concerns. And we're not saying that you won't receive one, but I had to prioritize, right? These are how many associates we have in the department today. And I had to prioritize. We will have another opportunity. The opportunity will be first quarter 2022. And that's where we're going to now assess additional associates. But we had to look at performance. We looked at individuals who had been enrolled in capacity, in their current capacity, for more than 2 years, right? Because you have associates who just started. And we want to be fair. You just started. When you started, you probably negotiated your rate a little bit. So you're where you were when you wanted to start, enroll, let's call it 6 months ago to a year. But we have other associates where we had to freeze some increases. So as a result, we wanted to make sure that we took care of them first as well. And so while we hear your concerns, we will absolutely address. But right now we needed to prioritize everyone that was impacted by a freeze that we had. And so we took care of those associates first. Now, Valerie, you might say, in the instance where there was no freeze, but we have to have this difficult conversation, it still goes something like, we are assessing performance, we are assessing longevity within the organization. And as the organization continues to run, we do have a budget as well. And so we do have to monitor that. In many cases, and in most cases, we do look at market standards. It appears that you are in line with market industry for salary, but I will absolutely take your concern forward and look at how we can address your salary or hourly wage specifically and get back with you. And once you've done that, and if you go back and find that, you know, Terry is appropriately aligned with her peers that are in the same job title, you go back and say that, right? I took back your concern. I looked at all peers in this role today, how long they've been enrolling, you're properly aligned. I'm not saying that you won't get an increase, but right now you're where you should be. But if you feel something different, we can continue to have these conversations and assess you at a later date. Does that sound okay, Valerie? That's how I would hold that conversation. Look, hourly wages or salaries are never easy conversations because associates feel like I want to be paid more. But we still have to assess it against everyone else in that role. So that's going to be the most important piece, and you can throw that in there. Okay, so I'll move through this, and Valerie, if you have other questions or anyone else, please let me know, but that's a great question for sure. So we make a fool's choice. So when facing a crucial conversation, we often feel like we have only two options to respond. Silence, not addressing it at all, or violence and like, oh, I can't believe they're asking me that. Can you believe they're asking me that question? We are blind to the option of open dialogue. And that's honestly something that I encourage you on, no matter how difficult the conversation is. I challenge you to just have open dialogue with individuals. The only time I'm not going to say have an open dialogue with someone is the difficult conversation of terminating them, right? You do not want to go into a meeting with an associate if it has already been determined that you will terminate them and have this open dialogue. The facts have already been presented. You're terminating them for whatever reason, right? Conduct, performance, attendance. So the conversation with that will look something like, you know, hi, Sean, you know, we're here because we had a conversation, because chances are you already have had a conversation, but we had a conversation around your performance based on the investigation, based on our conversation with you last week. This decision has been made and we're going to terminate your employment. Okay. That last day of employment will be, we will send you additional information as it relates to your benefits, your last pay, your vacation payout. Do you have any additional questions? Well, I don't agree with this. Well, how is that decision? Sean, the decision has already been made. If you have further questions or any concerns, I would actually say, let's reference your HR partner. You can draft an email, you can send it to them, or once I send you some additional information, there is a number usually companies will give a one-pager or something when they're terminating, but there is a number there that you can reference and then dial that. They'll be happy to answer any additional questions. I don't agree with this. I want to talk to someone now. Sean, the decision has been made. Okay. And at that point, you want to just have someone walk that person to their desk to gather their belongings or out of the building, and then you mail their belongings to them, whichever is more appropriate and feels more safe to you, right? So you make that judgment call then. So I know I got on terminations, but that's always a difficult conversation. Okay. That's the only time that you don't want to engage in dialogue with someone. Every other time, engage in some dialogue with them. Okay. Start with your heart. Sometimes, and I've actually had my leader say, yeah, I'm not warm and fuzzy. I don't know how to be warm and fuzzy and have these conversations, right? And what we mean by start with your heart is, remember, these are individuals too, right? Especially in this climate. So always get a feel for, how are you doing, right? Because they might be home with kids, ailing parents, taking care of someone. doing schoolwork, during still this virtual or hybrid environment. You don't know what that person is dealing with. So start with your heart by asking, hey, how are you doing? I noticed there's been a shift or a decline in performance. That's not like you. Talk to me a little bit about what's going on. So hear their concerns. Sometimes we go right into business, right? Because that's what we know. We got to drive the business forward. We got to meet these numbers. We got to meet these metrics. But we don't know what other people are dealing with when they leave their jobs. So just start with your heart, ask some clarifying questions. That's very safe to do. You have some associates that might not want to talk about it, and that's okay. You have associates that might say, Tracey, I'm just, my kids, I don't know how to deal with this. I'm a single mom or a single dad, and I'm having to juggle work as well as schoolwork. And I know that shows, but I'm just asking for a little leniency, right? I'm just a little bit. Tell me what you need. And if you can accommodate that, do so. If you can't, all right, so what we can do is, and you give that individual, and maybe you say, maybe you take off a couple of days, right? Take off a couple of days, deal with it. When you come back refreshed. Let me know if there's anything else you need that I can do to support you. Okay. All right. We all face them. We have crucial conversations all the time, dealing with emotionally charged disagreements, coaching a defensive direct report. We all have them. Disagreeing with the boss when he or she sees only one side of the issue. Debriefing what went wrong with the defensive group, discussing relationship concerns with significant other, those things come out, and then helping others open up. Here in this bullet, I want to talk through one thing, and it helps. How many of us have those associates or have ever encountered those associates that you have a difficult conversation? The next week, the same thing we just had a conversation about comes up again. How many of us have experienced, I know I just had that conversation. Why did this come up again? And that associate says, I don't remember you saying that. I don't remember us having that conversation. Have we ever encountered that? Just give me a yes or no. Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So if we've ever encountered those things, what I would challenge you to do, and maybe this is a nice to do anyway, is always send a recap email as a follow-up to our conversation on, gotta look at the date, August 19th at 12:07 p.m. These are the things that we talked about, and just bullet out some of those items, right? This is just to confirm that we've had the conversation. If you have any other concerns and or questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you. File it electronically in that associate's file. That covers you when that associate says, I don't remember having that conversation. Oh, as a matter of fact, we did, right? It also covers you in the event that you need to continue having performance conversations, right? That kind of acts as your verbal. And I don't know what your policy is in terms of progressive discipline, but that does act as, well, we had this conversation before. So now let's kind of start down this process, because normally in HR, we're like, well, did you notify the associate? And the leader's like, no, they should have known already. I shouldn't have to tell them again. They should have known. Notify them, by giving them kind of a follow-up email after you've had that conversation, okay? All right. Better results. When we start having these conversations effectively, we will see our issues get solved and they will improve. Sometimes they don't always improve, right? And then we address those one-off as they come.
All right.
Okay. So crucial conversations. Hold the right conversation to solve the real problem. Stay focused on what you really want. Watch for signs that are a safety risk. And this third bullet really goes to, we do have associates that, while we will kind of say, oh, they were just having a bad day, right? Some associates you truly, and I hate this part of my job, but you've got to look at some of those signs where an associate appears off balance, right? Where you have to concern yourself with, will they harm themselves or harm somebody else? So don't feel like, or don't blow off where they're just having a bad day. Nothing's going to happen. Please we take those things seriously. And so at any point in time, if you feel unsafe at having a one-off conversation with someone, bring another leader into the fold so that we can make sure, again, your safety is first and foremost. The other thing that I will say is, and this is how I do things. Every organization is different, but it is something that I live by. If you ever have to terminate an associate, I try and stay away from Fridays, right? Tell me why I would say that. Why do you think I would stay away from Fridays at terminating an associate? Because they will go home and think about it all weekend. Yeah. It's a good one, Valerie. Good one. Anyone else? I would not want them to come back mad on Monday. Okay. Okay. So Valerie, yeah, very accurate, right? Even if we term someone on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they can do the same thing. But weekends is when people sit home, right? Fridays is the day we're like, oh, we've had a long week. Can I get that glass of wine, right? I'm tired. I didn't have a long week. Fridays are when folks go home. You don't know if they're single. You don't know if they're in abusive relationships. You don't know if they're the abusers. You don't know what has gone on, or it will take them that entire weekend, allow things to fester. And then on Monday morning, I was terminated, right? I want to understand, and I'm going back into the building because I'm upset that you terminated me on Friday. It gives them that time to think through it, get angry, right? And that's not to say it can't happen Monday through Thursday. And I by no means want to scare anyone. That's not but they're real life situations. And these things have happened to me personally. And so I like to share those things, right? And so if you must terminate someone, try and do it Monday through Thursday versus that Friday where they're left to now think about it. And then when that happens, please make sure that you work with whichever department is appropriate for you, IT, to deactivate badges, to deactivate emails, to deactivate everything that you've got to do before you terminate the associate, like right before, not where all of a sudden they go back to the desk like, I can't send an email, what's going on? But make sure that, again, your safety is first and foremost. Okay. Take control of your emotions instead of losing control when you're having the meeting. Speak persuasively, not abrasively. Help others out of silence or violence, and then go from talking to getting results. So again, get unstuck. So the problem is just because you're talking doesn't mean you're holding the right conversation. I'll say that again. Just because you are talking doesn't mean you're holding the right conversations. Okay. The solutions, I always say, let's use the CPR. So what's your content? What's the pattern? And then what's that relationship? Because those things are important as you begin to navigate those difficult conversations. What content am I going to deliver here, right? What's the pattern? And then what's that relationship? If you have a relationship with folks that you work with, just to, because we all have developed those relationships at work, because again, we spend most of our time working. And if you're not comfortable having that difficult conversation, again, it's very appropriate to engage someone else to have the conversation. Okay. So hold the right conversation. Content, a single instance of a problem may be the action itself or the immediate consequence. Pattern, a reoccurring problem, a pattern of behavior. And then the relationship, how the problem is affecting your working relationship. These are all things that you want to consider when you are managing someone. Solve the problem. We often get stuck because we focus on the wrong problem. When we go into a meeting, right, sometimes it's easy for us to, when we're nervous, we'll begin to ramble things and we're going off into this tangent, and it has nothing to do with the reason that you started the conversation. Nothing. Make sure you focus on the issue at hand, right? It's okay to go in with a notebook and then you have some notes, right? It's okay. You go in, again, that goes to the preparation. You go in prior to the meeting and you have a few bullets. Don't have a book. Don't go in with a book. Just go in with a few bullets. Go in with those bullets of items that you're going to talk about, and then you address those things, right? Always prepare. More often than not, we get stuck on content when we should be talking about the actual issues at hand. Okay. What's the real issue? So your boss is full of ideas. The problem is that she intimidates people by talking too much or too long and with a great amount of force. Your team talked about her style. She agreed back off a bit, but she just railroaded through her idea for a new project, right? It's my boss. How do I really address that with my boss? No, that's my boss. Normally before I start a conversation, I always say, are you open to some feedback? Right. And it depends on, because sometimes, not always, a boss will be like, how did I do, y'all? How did I do? How was that? And, sometimes it's a matter of maybe sometimes it's not where you can say anything. And if it's not, you just let it go. You let it go. But if you have that relationship, really, if you do have that relationship, and if there's an opportunity to provide feedback, be comfortable in the moment of providing feedback. It could be confidential feedback, right? Great meeting. I think we had some great things that came out of the meeting. But a couple of things that I did notice within the meeting, I just kind of felt like the meeting was long and we got lost in some of the details we weren't able to accomplish. I would love to continue to have the meetings, but I think it would be great to just kind of have an agenda point so that we can all be able to get through some of our points and projects that we do have ongoing, right? Again, it's only if you're comfortable. Sometimes it's not realistic, but if you are a leader on this live or webinar today, I encourage you to solicit feedback from your team, right? It makes you a better leader. It does. And it also opens up that door so that your associates are comfortable coming to you about those things, right? So even it's just, hey guys, how did I do? What would you do differently? Was this good feedback? Was this good? How the meeting flowed? So if you don't do that today, get comfortable, right? That's how we grow as people. State my path. So what the problem is again, and then what the solution is. 5 steps for talking. The acronym is STATE. Share your facts, tell your story, ask for other paths, the others' paths. And what that looks like is, so tell me what you would like to do, right? What's your goal? What do you want to accomplish? Talk tentatively. Don't promise or overpromise or overcommit, because when we get nervous, what do? We overcommit, right? I'm going to give you that raise. Let me look at that and I'll probably come back and we'll be able to increase you maybe 3%. Thank you for presenting your case. What you can commit to is, I'll follow back up with you. Let me look at everything, right? I want to make sure that I'm able to get back with you with the appropriate information and you get all the facts together and commit to following up. I can't promise you that I'm going to be able to give you what you're asking for, but I will commit to following up, right? So just don't, because again, we're all guilty of it. We're like, oh my goodness, they're right here in front of me. They just caught me. They didn't schedule time. They just scheduled the meeting right now. And it's okay. Right? It's okay not to have an answer for them immediately. And then encourage testing, right? I might have. Separate your facts from your stories. Basically, that's just making sure you come in with all your facts. Let's sit down, let's have this conversation, and then now let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about it. It's 12:18. I'm going to wrap up here in 2 minutes because I want to allow 10 minutes for you all to have a few questions. Is that okay, Tracey?
That's perfect. That's awesome. Perfect.
And then share your facts. So start with what you saw and heard. You may need to include how what you saw and heard differs from your expectations, right? Lay those expectations out. One thing that I've learned just throughout my career, sometimes we'll send an email to an associate and say, hey, Sean, if you can complete X, Y, and Z for me. You're looking, it's 3-4 days have passed, and you're like, I haven't received this deliverable from Sean. Set the expectations. Time sensitive. Need a response by. If you can have it to me by Thursday, right? Set those expectations. Ask for other paths again. What are you looking to, what are you anticipating, right? What are your expectations? And then, is your organization effective? based on everything that we've just covered today, right? Is your organization effective in how they deliver these types of conversations? If they're not, what's the cost? A lot of times the cost is associates leaving, right? Just because the leader didn't have that difficult conversation. Growth comes from having a difficult conversation, even from the associate side, right? I can't grow as an associate if I don't know that I'm doing something wrong, if I don't know that I can get better, if I don't develop in my or pour into my associates. You pour into your associates by having those most difficult conversations. Okay. That concludes our difficult conversation piece. Do you have any questions?
And we're checking the chat box. You're looking at it as well, Latisha.
I am. So
looks like we still have 27 folks still on.
Okay.
So they might just be typing.
Okay. So if you don't, or even if you do, I'll say a few things just to conclude. Always keep in mind, look, we don't expect you all to be experts. That's why you have HR partners. That's why you have other leaders that, are great at this. But again, I challenge you to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And so, because it's not just in the workplace where you have to have those difficult conversations, it's even in personal lives. And I always tell people, a conflict isn't a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing. Conflict is good as well, because that means you get to have that dialogue with people. So again, I just challenge you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it looks like Megan had a question. So yeah. How do you know that what you're saying is what they are hearing? For example, if you've had the same performance conversation multiple times, is it the manager not being clear? Great question. Great question.
That's awesome.
It is. So Megan, you hope, right? You hope that they're hearing. But one thing that you can do to ensure that they are at least walking away from that moment hearing what you said, if you have a performance conversation with them, right? You repeat what you just, so it's kind of the end of it. Hey, I just want to recap what we just talked about today. These are some of the things that we're going to recap. This is what I'm expecting from you. This is what I need to see from you. Tell me what you just heard or what you're taking away from this conversation. Pause, right? Let them tell you what they're walking away from and they've heard, right? Because now you're putting the onus back on them. The other thing that I would do is, typically, if you're having performance conversations, you are scheduling one-on-ones with them, I hope. So whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, put the onus on said associate. Tracey, we're going to have a performance conversation based on your performance every week or every other week. What I need for you to do is send me an agenda item of what we're going to discuss prior to our meeting, right? Because it puts the onus back on them, not always you as the leader. You need to ensure that that associate is just as invested in their development as you are. You can't want it more than what they want, right? So you recap with them after the meeting, you have them recap what they heard, and you put the onus back on them and require that they send you agenda items to discuss prior to your one-on-ones with them. Great question, Megan.
Latisha, I want to piggyback just a little bit because I'm literally in that moment. We had a company meeting and we had another personality test. I'm sure a lot of folks on the calls have done that. And it was what he said, what you heard. And literally, I've been doing this over the past year with my direct. And I have, because we've had so many changes because of the changing times that we're in. So literally, I know she's like, what? And before I leave out, I say, okay, now this is what I heard. So this is what I wrote down. And this is what I'm going to make sure is drilled down to the teams. And most times she's like, yes. Or she's like, I didn't say that. So that was a perfect question. And that was a perfect answer that you gave.
Yep, absolutely. It is. Because you're like, okay, maybe I'm because sometimes people will say things and you're like, I'm not really sure what you just said, but let me do my best to try and recap, right? So no, thank you so much, Sandra. I think is it Sandra? Please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, but thank you so much. I appreciate you for sure. Any other questions?
I know this is perfect timing. We're at 12:24, so we have our time Somebody said you got it right.
Okay, right.
Yes, because, and you kept saying throughout your presentation, this is true for, your personal life as well.
It is.
With the kids. Okay, wait a minute. That's not what I said. I don't know how you heard
that.
What
I said, right.
Same thing.
Like my daughter who walked in, she's like, well, I know you said be quiet, but you didn't say not to bring you a snack. I'm going to be quiet and bring you a snack. Yes.
Awesome. We still have 26 people on and we have 5 minutes. Does anybody have any other burning questions or concerns?
So Valerie said, I think there's a lot of value in one-on-ones, that is, it allows you to build a relationship. Absolutely, over time. Absolutely. The person feels comfy talk. Spot on. You're right. I've been saying Valerie. I don't think it's Valerie. Is it Valerine?
Here's some more. Should you have another person?
Good question. So it depends, right?
Yeah.
That's tricky because if you feel like it's kind of a one-time situation where, man, I need to speak to someone about, and again, I'll just give them what's a difficult how someone is presenting themselves or dressing, right?
I was just getting ready to say that, dressing. Yep.
No, just you and the person. Because what happens is if you bring someone in, that person is immediately like, what? Like, you couldn't have this conversation with just us. It's already uncomfortable because you're talking about my presentation, how I'm presenting myself. So have it as just you all, right? Now, if it's a difficult conversation that's around performance and you're like, this associate is very combative, I cannot say anything without them taking what I say way out of context, then yeah, right? And what you would do is when you get into that room or Zoom, always introduce the person first, right? Thank you, Tracey. I appreciate you meeting with me. I do have Latisha in the room with us. I'm having her capture some notes just to make sure that I can keep my focus on you, to make sure that I'm able to capture everything that you say to me, etc. Right? Make up something, set it up so that they don't feel uncomfortable or off guard or off-putting, and they don't open up to you. Remember what I said earlier? Building that relationship, that rapport, making that person feel comfortable. So gauge every situation different. It depends on the conversation. Salary conversations, not likely. Right. But again, it just depends. Terminations, yeah. Let me give you this one more tidbit real quick on terms. If you all ever, again, I don't know your setup, if you as the leaders do terminations. If you're in the office, and because I'm all about safety, if you're ever in the office and you're having to terminate someone, for those that are in the office or doing hybrid, always keep the door cracked. Try and have someone, maybe a male or just someone, if you don't have them in the room with you, outside of the door, walking around, right, to be a little discreet, and never have your back facing that door, ever. Make sure that your back is not facing, because if that person charges at you, you can't, your back's facing it, not your face. So just set up the room in which everyone is comfortable, especially you as the individual that's separating the employee. Okay? We
have 2 minutes. Do you see that question? How do you address a situation when you're being disrespected?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's kind of what you were just talking about. Okay.
Yeah, and how do you frame the conversation, right? As a leader, you don't have to take someone being disrespectful. So what you would say is, let's say the person is yelling at you or trying to belittle you or use, I'm not, what we're not going to do is have this conversation with you in this manner. So we can either come back when cooler heads prevail, or I'll go ahead and allow you to clock out, think about what you really need to say, and then we come back and have that conversation, right? But if you want to have a reasonable conversation, we can, but I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me, okay? Which one do you want, right? Which choice? And so have that conversation in that manner, but never allow anyone to just sit there and disrespect you. And if you need to bring someone else in, because that's a situation where I would probably bring someone else in immediately. And it is, again, I don't know your policy, but it might be a situation where you're having to say, we're not going to have this conversation, go ahead and clock out and go home.
We have 1 minute left. And what I was going to say is, in having these crucial conversations, summing up some of what you said, is being intentional with having the different relationships that you have at home and at work. So hopefully, as you're having to have these conversations, it's not as difficult for you or the other person.
Absolutely. And on that note, please don't, please, if you're Facebook friends or Instagram friends of people people that report to you, stop it. Stop it. If they report to you, you've got to draw that line in the sand, right? Because what you can't do, I know we at 12:30. I gotta say this.
No, go ahead.
This situation happened to me. I had a leader that called me. Latisha, this leader said, or this employee said they were stressed, they needed to take a vacation, or they needed time off. I'm sorry. I want to terminate them because I'm looking on Facebook now and I see they're on the beach. A, you shouldn't be Facebook friends with anybody. But B, again, in today's climate, you don't know if they're under care of a doctor and they just needed to pull away. They're going through a depressive state. They needed to pull away. You don't know any of that, right?
Right.
Please, if you have someone that is reporting to you and you are friends with them, please stop it. It makes things muddy. It's my only recommendation. You don't have to, right? It's not against company policy, but it makes things very muddy, right? Because at that point, that associate feels like, well, we're friends outside of work. I don't understand why you're this. So I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent. But thank you all so very much. Tracey, thank you for giving me the opportunity. If you all ever need anything, again, Latisha B. Russell. I am happy to answer any additional questions if need be, but you all have an amazing weekend as we are on Friday Eve.
Thank you so much again, Latisha B. Russell, and thank you to everyone out there who are able to attend virtually.
Thank
Have
you
an
so
awesome
much.
day.
You too.
Bye.